and president, CEO, and probably everything else I need to be for Sabretooth Recruiting. And today I'm really fortunate because I've had a couple of guests lately who are in spaces that I find exciting and really gets my curiosity going. I've got Guillaume with me, who is the CFO of a company called Omni Bridgeway. Thanks so much for joining us today. I was hoping maybe you could get us started with a little introduction of yourself, your background, and who Omni Bridgeway is.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you so much for having me when you reached out. I thought it was a great opportunity to tell my story, talk to you a little bit, and I watched a couple of your podcasts. I thought it was great, so I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you.
So I'm a CPA, very boring from Canada. Some CPAs lose their hair. I kept mine pretty good color too.
Mine just migrated down to my chin, I think.
I moved to the U.S. about 21 years ago. Worked for GE, for Citi, and Circle K. Decided to join Omni Bridgeway. I thought it's a very interesting challenge. Our business is not so well known. We're an asset manager of legal assets.
Okay.
So think of if you want to sue someone for, say, $100 million, it'll probably cost you $10 million of lawyer fees and costs. So if we accept your case, we pay for those fees, and this is our investment in your case. And if you lose, you don't have to pay us back. So it's a beautiful thing for claimants. They come to us for this kind of financing, and we have a few other assets left and right, but for the most part, this is what we manage through our 11 funds now.
Wow, you talk about a stealth business.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you don't know, you don't know. I mean, how do these? What's the mechanism that supports these lawsuits? Because some of them are vast, huge numbers.
There's now, of course, an increasing number of lawsuits. The world is getting more complicated. Contracts are getting more complicated. By the time we see the contract, of course, something wrong has happened, and we look at it and we're like, well, why did the parties agree to this? It's so unclear, it's so nuanced that of course they were going to litigate on this, but you can't think of everything when you write a contract, and you end up with a bunch of disputes, and that's what we support. Crises also bring business to us. So after the financial crisis and now after COVID, sometimes conflicts between countries and organizations also give us opportunities. Expatriation of land by a country or a city gives us business in international arbitration. So it's a good business that we have an increasing number of cases every year presented to us.
It's high finance is what it is. And I think a lot of it, because it is an unknown for a lot of people. So let me ask you this, and maybe this is a great way to approach the whole topic, but what's the biggest problem that you and Omni Bridgeway solve?
The biggest problem is that our returns are very high. And when I approach investors, which is a big part of my job now, to attract more private investors into our funds, they just don't believe it. We have, for example, the last quarter we just published that we made a 2.8 MOIC, which means we made 2.8 times the amounts that we invested. Wow. So investors are like, wait a minute, like you guys.
I'm like, wait a minute.
You guys must take so much risk, right? This is so risky, and at the end of the day, I spend more time explaining to people how we risk manage their money than how we make that money, because they're worried about the kind of return that we can provide, and we of course disclose everything. The biggest risk, and this surprises people as well, it's not even the litigation itself, it's the time it takes sometimes, right? The duration increases.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not under anybody's control. It's just a judicial process that needs to take place. And also the quantum, right? You might sue somebody for $1 billion and then you end up with a judgment of 60 million. So it's a huge difference between what you expected and what you end up getting.
I would imagine the whole risk management arbitrage functionality there is pretty robust, because you're basically putting money on your money where your mouth is. We believe that this is going to win, or this is going to be a loser, or whatever it might be. And beyond that, there's winning a lawsuit, but there's the degree of winning.
Yep.
And, when it comes to the dollars and cents.
And this is why we have, of course, a lot of lawyers on our staff that help
Right.
us do this analysis. But this is something very unique to our company. We also have an equal number of finance people with economics and mathematics
Smart.
background
That's smart.
that we pair with lawyers so that every single dollar we think about returns. I think lawyers, we love lawyers, but they tend to get excited about the prospects of the case. And when you say, well, wait a minute, this is going to take 20 years to win some money there, even if you win, it's going to be very low return because it takes too much time. You have the finance guy that's there to calculate what does that mean for our investors. At the end of the day, investors want
Right.
return, right? They don't care about, oh, you've proved a beautiful merit in this legal case. They want the return. So that we pair people with an equal amount of efforts put into the legal merits and the financial calculations.
I tell you what, though, you're talking a massive amount of brain power and education in any given room there in your offices. Man, I could just think of so many things going sideways. I mean, it's like that's a massive problem to risk manage. Let me ask you this, because we look around where the economy is today, and we look at various market spaces that we play in, and you guys are in, I guess, what we could loosely call high finance, but also alternative investments for a lot of people. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, most of your investor base are probably larger, well-funded people, or endowments and pensions and things of this nature. So when you look at the state of your market space today, how do you go from where you are today to what future state is, say, going to be in 3 years, and what does that look like? Because right now, it seems like you almost have to have a focus on these larger institutional investors. But there are, I have no doubt, a lot of people, they hear about that MOIC and they're going to kind of sit back and say, hey, I'd like to know more. I mean, how do you approach that, and how do you evolve over the next 3 or 4 years? What's that going to look like?
So you're right that in today's market, the larger investment houses have been investing in this asset class for about 20, 25 years. It's a fairly young industry. And now we're seeing this kind of second layer to start to invest in the asset class. So family offices, we have two now that invest with us, and we're looking for more. Pension funds that are typically a little bit more conservative. They have created a space in their portfolios for alternative investments, and then they've started to allocate a piece of that to us. But yeah, we're going from the really bigger houses now to the medium and even high net worth individuals that will put their part of their portfolio in our asset class. So this is the effort that I'm leading right now. As I said before, more towards fundraising, is with a lot of family offices and people that they don't need us for stock picking and more known well parts of the market for bonds and so forth. But for alternative assets, they need help. They need specialized managers, and we fit well in that bucket.
Yeah, because I think most Americans, anyway, and probably most people in the world, when you think about investments and you think stock market, you think bonds, you think limited returns, and man, you just like to see that graph go up on the evening news or on your favorite website or whatever it might be. But there's a universe out there of some really interesting opportunities. Yeah. And I think this space, dealing with litigation, is fascinating because, I mean, how you guys get to a point where, okay, we're willing to back this versus...
No, indeed, and it's completely uncorrelated to the market, right? A lot of investors look for this. Things will go up and down with macro and can be influenced by different things. We're completely uncorrelated, right? We're only dependent on the process it takes to get to a settlement, a trial, the outcome of that. Could be a jury decision, but all of this is not influenced by macro. It's solely influenced by the merits of the case and presenting it to a judge or someone.
Makes me wonder if there's a book floating around from Michael Crichton or somebody about the industry space. You hear about, don't run away with my jury, or, you read The Firm or whatever. You got to sit back and go,
Yeah.
man, there's a whole nother layer of complexity to all this.
Yeah. Well, maybe in my retirement, I'll write another book, and it'll be about litigations.
I think I would buy that book and your others just because I find it fascinating to look at something that you don't have a lot of visibility on day to day.
Yep.
If you want to sit here and talk about mutual funds and 401ks, I mean, there's a lot of people you can converse with. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm financing the lawsuit against, Acme Brick Company or whatever it is. I'm representing the Wile E. Coyote against the Acme Dynamite Company. Whatever you choose to put it in, it's like, that's really, it's a whole different universe, like I said. If someone wanted to learn more, whether, it's about you or it's about Omni Bridgeway, what's the best way to find you and get in contact?
I think our website, we disclose a lot of information, including the way that we price our
Because
investments.
you're publicly traded ultimately, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're a public company, so omnibridgeway.com. In the investor section, people can find a lot of information about our returns. Mm-hmm. We conducted a investor day on March 27. We talked to our investor with a deck. We published that deck on our website. People can understand how we price things. We actually want even our competitors to understand how we think about this market, so that everybody becomes sophisticated and this asset class actually benefits, and it's not just hedge fund left and right financing these litigation. We are looking forward to a market that is much more sophisticated, and we like to present to people how we do things. So a lot of information. Of course, claimants that want to apply for funding with us also available on our website. We get lots of information how we do things. We give examples of class actions that we've run to defend people. We, by the way, most of the time are on David's side against Goliath. We typically, the person that comes to us is someone that doesn't have the funds, obviously, to sue some big company. And these big companies, they will try to make it very difficult, obviously, to sue them.
Right.
And when we show up and we support a claimant, it equalizes the deep pockets needed for litigations, and then the dialogue between claimant and defendant is much better. If, again, an inventor tries to go up after a big technology company, is like, good luck, right? They're going to make his life very complicated. So we have information about that on our website, and some white papers that are very interesting for people that are interested in this topic.
You know what fascinates me from a, I guess, philosophical basis is that when you look at our court system, whether it's criminal or civil, it's an adversarial system.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely 110% correct that money influences that system. Because if you have a great attorney, but I have 10 great attorneys because I can afford that, and I can afford bona fide experts to come in as witnesses for my case and so on and so forth. I've got a massive advantage if you're sitting there shoestringing it or bootstrapping it, because these things can last years.
Yep.
And man, now that I think about what you just said, my mind, I'm thinking David v. Goliath makes sense. Being on David's side, being on the person you look at and are like, well, they'll never do this on their own. Well, you know what? We're going to balance, level the playing field a little bit here.
Yep.
As far as resources go.
Yeah, exactly. And we believe the importance of access to justice. Of course, we use it as a social measure to make a statement about our services. Don't get me wrong, we're there for investors and make money. But at the same time, we bring in a value for the whole system to equalize people's chances to win in litigations.
It's fascinating. We could have some conversations here if we weren't recording this, because I want to dive into the details a little bit and man, this is really cool. So, the way people can find you is obviously on the Omni Bridgeway website, but you and I are connected on LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
I'm sure someone can reach out to you directly. All you have to do is be connected with me or search
Absolutely.
my connections. But man,
Yeah, absolutely. And
fascinating.
I love when people reach out and say, "Hey, I have a case." I always forward this to the right person. We try to help everybody. And then, of course, if investors are interested to invest with us, we take inquiries and we explain to them the whole process. We try again to disclose as much as possible to make people understand how well we manage this risk.
Awesome. I think the whole thing's fascinating, frankly, and I've got no doubt people are going to listen to this and come to the same conclusion. It's like, hey, I want to know more, because curiosity gets aroused, and let's face it, it's there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives, and there's no doubt there's risk. There's risk in everything. But man, I just want to thank you, Guillaume, for spending the time with me and sharing that. And I'll look forward to where we go in our next conversation.
Thanks so much, John, for having me.